An immortal Scottish swordsman must confront the last of his immortal opponents, a murderous, brutal barbarian who lusts for the fable prize. 1986's Highlander is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, my name is George Michail. I'm joined by novelist Andrew Buckley, writer, illustrator GMB CHOMICHUK, and all-around good dude John Bauer. Today we're talking about Highlander. This is a movie from the 80s. It's very 80s. I had never seen it before. I was told that I had to see it, and we're going to talk about what we liked about it first. So, guys, can we get into what's the good? What do you guys like about this movie?
There's so many things. Sneakers.
I have such a long list.
Katanas, trench coats.
Soundtrack.
Oh my gosh. Lightning, spark.
Where do we start? Where do we start?
There's so many things. Do you feel the stag, Connor? There's so many good things that are bad in this movie.
Oh my God. I have a story about that stag.
There's so many things about this movie. It is a bad movie. That is so good because it is not interested in being high-minded cinema. It's like, we're going to make a movie about dudes that cut each other's heads off. Why do they do it? They're immortal. I have an idea. They're immortal. And there can be how many of them? I think only one. Let's make this movie. It has so much rogue filmmaking spirit in it. I'd love to know more about how it got made. I bet Andrew can tell me.
I weirdly cannot tell you a ton about the first one, except that the director had done nothing but music videos before this point.
Oh, it's
and they're
perfect.
Like, who are we going to get to do this? That guy.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, it definitely comes through. I mean, we talked about this with John Delaney, who's been on the show before, and he was right. The stylistic shots and the transitions was stuff that was never done in film before. They never attempted it. Like, it was just like when they go from like Madison Square Garden wrestling match to the Scottish Highlands battle, when they go from his fish tank to underwater, like it was all like that stuff that just wasn't done in that time period, especially in the 80s. Like they had terrible editing in the 80s. Like they did some beautiful transitions in a movie that, yes, granted, does not make a ton of sense, but it is still stylistically so nice.
So ambitious. It's such an ambitious film. And it's actually amazing it got made. I mean, I like Christopher Lambert, but only because I first saw him in Highlander.
Oh, really? You didn't see him in Greystokes first?
No, I didn't. So I saw him there.
So he was a French actor. He was in Greystokes where he had like 6 words to say.
He was good there.
And he was amazing because he had that look. And the same reason he's good in this. Like he has that look. Like it's pretty badass. But when they cast him, dude can speak any English.
I think that's actually a good part of the movie, is that he feels like someone who came from somewhere else. The anachronistic part of, you know, when I first saw it as a kid, I was like, why does he talk like that?
Yeah.
Right? But it was one more question mark in a person that had only seen a certain kind of film being portrayed.
I thought they explained his accent really well by saying that, you know, he's immortal and he's lived in a lot of different places. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that makes sense to me. And so I rolled with it. And yeah, so sometimes when a movie has like a reasonable explanation for something that doesn't make sense, then you go with it. Like Christopher Lambert. What didn't make sense was Sean Connery, the Egyptian Spaniard, but sounds like a Scotsman. That there was no explanation given for that.
And broaden your mind, George.
He
just didn't work for me.
It didn't make a lot. I mean,
Ramirez.
Sense. Ramirez. You know, a lot of his lines were recorded at his Spanish villa, like after the fact. Like he did a lot of the dubbing after.
Like ADR'd it later.
Yeah, because he had to go through accent coaching to try and develop more of a Spanish twinge.
It did not work.
It did not come across at all. It was weird casting. Very strange.
That's one of the things I like about it, honestly, is that it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like a collage of things I liked at the time in the 80s, right? One of the things I wished on my wish list is a version of Highlander where they can digitally place opaque sunglasses on him for the entire movie. It's the one 80s touch. I wish he'd had 80s black, like Ray-Ban, like for the whole film. I would have eaten that up.
I did like the costumes and the aesthetics and the trench coats. I thought the Clancy Brown's villain he looked really cool in like medieval Scotland with the Black Knight kind of skull.
What was he? The Kurgan?
The Kurgan.
Yeah,
not Kurgan, the Kurgan.
And then when he's in the 80s, he's just gone for the punk look, which like he looks so cool in it. Like I did like the villain overall in it.
He was great, and he was imposing. Like he was way taller than Lambert. Like he was just a huge.
One of my sisters dressed like him through the entire 80s, so it was, you know, it was like a pretty solid reference. I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
So midway through the movie, it was just bugging me because I just watched it for the first time recently, and I was like, where do I know this guy from? Like, where do I know him from? And then I realized that he's on like the current season of Dexter.
Yeah, he's everywhere. Yeah,
and
he pops up a lot.
Yeah, and then I was also shocked to find out that he's the voice of Mr. Crab in SpongeBob.
What?
Really?
He's the voice of
Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's also Lex Luthor too.
At Krusty Burger. It's Clancy Brown.
and he's Lex Luthor on the animated series, Superman animated series.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been around.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal actor. Honestly,
he really is. The story of the Immortals being as vague as it is, as much as kind of it is, on the one hand, kind of irritating that we don't really understand what the fuck the prize is or anything like that. It does. I mean, once you get halfway into the movie, you're like, okay, they're all fighting for a prize. Yeah. You don't know what it is.
I don't want to know the prize.
I don't care, and I still don't care. Even at the end when he explains it, I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense, and I still don't care because he won, and that's what's important.
Could we, for a moment, tighten our ascots, put on our smoking jackets, lean back with our feet up, have a nice port, and recognize that the opening shots of the film, there you go, John. Attaboy, John. The opening shots of the film are the entire movie. It's a contest at Madison Square Garden. The prize doesn't matter. The entertainment is what matters. You don't know what they're going to win. They don't win anything. They just have to do it again at the next time there's a match, right? That's what we've done in entertainment. And here is the Highlander and all the Immortals doing the same thing. We don't have to know what the real prize is for them, right? We just have to know that there is a conflict underneath it. The Kurgan must have his revenge.
I read that they originally wanted to have him be at an NHL game, and that they wouldn't give him the rights to use that. And so I don't know why they didn't just film like an amateur hockey game, but they went with wrestling instead, which I think kind of fits more in a sense.
More, yeah. We have to take our ascots off now because I thought this was planned, but now you're telling me it was just an accident. Wow. Right.
Like there is some cool stuff in it. Like I like that there can only be one. I like the decapitations. It's a neat way to kill people. I like the quickening idea. So when you kill somebody, you get like their like soul power energy, and it like comes to you in electrical form. I don't know. I think it's neat. It doesn't make any sense, but it's cool. Another thing that I did like in it was the subplot with his assistant, Rachel. I like that he had saved this girl during like World War II time, and now she was older than he appears to look, but he actually saved her when she was a child, and they had this kind of nice relationship. My wife was picking up like weird romantic vibes from them, but I didn't get that at all.
What would be weird about that? What would he care about how old she was?
Well, well, one thing he doesn't, because he said he even loved his wife. Maybe I don't know if it's in this one, a sequel. Like he loved his wife even when she was old. Like he loved her just as much. It never changed for him. But with the assistant, that story, but those scenes were added at the very end of the shoot. They weren't in the original script, but the cast loved working on this movie so much that they stayed behind and shot all the additional Rachel stuff for free. Because they were like totally buying into it.
They were just like, let's just add more to this fun
total
experience.
Free. And Rachel was supposed to be in love with Connor, but he never loved her back. It was always a little girl that he saved.
I like that subplot. I thought that was good.
Because
added a little bit more
he
dimension
meets her as a girl, and she's a girl to him forever.
Totally, exactly.
Like,
she's always that little girl.
The Immortal is frozen. I mean, maybe we're reading a little too much into this 80s
Probably.
Hack and slack extravaganza, but why has there not been a Highlander remake in a big budget film? We've had lots of Highlander films, don't get me wrong.
There is.
Is there a big one coming?
Henry Cavill is playing the Highlander.
Oh my God.
And it's being written and directed by Chad Straczynski from the John Wick movies.
I learned recently from a very smart person that he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix.
Yes.
See our previous video about
what I've heard too.
He was also the director of John Wick was also the stunt double for Brandon Lee in The Crow, and actually finished the role after Brandon Lee tragically died. He finished playing it, and
you can't blow my mind in two different videos with the same person, the same footnote. That's not fair.
I just watched that movie.
Like, cool is like he's never revealed what scenes are him and what scenes are Brandon Lee. He just refuses to talk about it. He's like,
see them. I just watched The Crow last week for the first time.
You can't always tell though. I don't think. No.
People will ask like, "Well, was that you or is that him?" And he's like, "I have no comment on that."
Yeah,
interesting.
This movie has some cool decapitations, which are a bit horrific. And another thing that is horrific that's coming out soon is The Backbone of Night. Greg, can you tell us a bit about your newest project?
The Backbone of Night is a young adult horror novel about a father and son surviving a robot apocalypse. And I actually have a reference to a Highlander scene in the novel, I realize. Baked in. There's a sword fight decapitation with a robot, not to be missed. It is available for pre-order now. I'm sure there'll be a link in the description below because George is a consummate professional.
Yeah. So guys, if this sounds like something that you would like to check out, click that link and ask your local comic book retailer to bring that series in for you. Backbone of Night. Let's get into the bad. What did you guys not like about Highlander?
I didn't like that there weren't more scenes of Ramirez breathing super deeply and connecting with the quickening to other animals and figuring out what the hell that was supposed to mean.
Oh,
I wanted more of that more. Stag.
Okay, so all the stags in the area at that time did not have horns. They didn't have horns, so they had to actually bring in a vet, sedate the stag, glue horns onto the stag.
No.
Until it woke up, and then try to shoot the scene. But the problem was the stag, all they wanted to do was get the damn things off its head, and it ended up bolting from the set. They found it 25 miles away 2 days later without the horns, and they had to return it to where they'd actually got the animal from. And then in the end, they just used National Geographic stock footage instead.
Mm-hmm. I think the animal understood how bad the movie was, and that's why it took off. It's super cheesy.
I feel like this movie is just entirely too stupid for how artsy it tries to be.
100%. That's basically all the work I do. Maybe that's why I like it. Too stupid for how artsy I alluded
to. Like, there's these cool transitions. Like the director, I think, is doing like some really cool stuff, like visually with the movie, and then it doesn't bother to like put in like the proper lore. Like basically they're vampires without like the coolness of vampires. Like they don't have the blood sucking, they don't have the romantic vision, they can't control animals or turn into bats, or
they made that movie already. They made that movie already. Now you need to make a movie with sneakers and katanas
and trench coats
and French actors in America fighting Scottish actors who are Spanish, learning from them so that they can fight. The Kurgan.
He's supposed to be German or something like that.
He's supposed to be German.
Russian.
He was Russian. He was Russian.
He's a Russian villain.
What this is a film that really is steeped in the milieu of a. I'm just trying to bullshit and make it sound artsy, but you're right, it's not.
It's an hour 45. Queen music video is what it should be.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I love this movie. I couldn't say anything wrong about this movie. At the very last scene where he cuts off the Kurgan's head and he just kind of falls off because he like cut it through almost all the way, and all the shit comes spraying out, and then does that crazy close up on Lambert's face. He's like, "There could be only one," and then everything explodes. Man, I love that freaking scene.
Why was Andrew's suggestion?
I was because honestly, I didn't suggest it because of Highlander 1. I suggested because Highlander 2 is so bad, and I wanted to talk about that. But I really love Highlander. And rewatching it, I'm like, I really still love this movie.
The worst thing about Highlander is how excited it made me for Highlander 2. And I'll never forgive it for that.
Me neither. Me neither. I was so relieved when they did Highlander 3 and they ignored Highlander 2 ever existed. I was like, oh, this is nice.
That's right. They just did like the Halloween remake recently. They're like, no, those didn't happen. What?
Yeah, yeah, all 10 of those movies. Nah.
So to me, it feels kind of half-baked. It just they didn't really think it through that much.
It was the 80s, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles precluded anyone from using a straight sword. You had to use a katana if you were going to be katana.
Yeah.
Right? It was just where we were at. Ninjas were huge in the 80s. Remember Ninja 3 The Domination? If we don't do that one, I'm quitting this channel. But, right. Katanas were the thing. What I don't understand about it is why isn't anyone in this movie about sword fighting that good at sword fighting?
They're all pretty terrible. And he learned from like an Olympic sword fighter, and he's still terrible.
If you're gonna cast someone who doesn't even like speak English, why not just cast the sword fighters? Cast the Olympians.
Sure,
yeah.
I found the love interest, the woman, and she's interested in that old sword. So fucking boring. Like, I did not buy the relationship for a second. And it's like she's out to discover the secrets of the sword. Like, come on.
Oh my god.
What? And she's following him around, and it's just I didn't buy it at all.
She really loves that sword. I mean, the metal was folded. Did you not listen, George? The metal was folded like a ridiculous amount of times. I mean, geez.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. It shouldn't exist. It shouldn't exist. I'd be intrigued too.
Okay, let's get into the skinny. Let's give our grades for Highlander. I'll give it a C. I was mildly entertained watching this for the first time. It's a very 80s movie. Like, it's just, you know, it's the trench coats and the sneakers, and it's just a lot of staring at the screen, and a lot of, you know, the music was kind of cool, but yeah, it felt like a music video, and like that doesn't hold my attention for, you know, an hour and a half. So I'd give it a skip. Like, honestly, I wouldn't recommend watching it. It's like, if you haven't seen it, don't seek it out.
You're not often right, but you're wrong again, George. I will give this movie an H for Highlander. You should totally watch it. It is really important if you're into action movies, if you're into bad 80s movies, if you want to look at a cultural time capsule that slices thinly the veil of filmmaking, music videos, and Christopher Lambert looking soulfully at the camera while smoke collects behind him. This is the movie for you.
I agree with your H rating because that's 2 below F. So let's go with that.
No, it's on its way around that it's on top.
I give this movie. I'm just gonna give it an A because I love the loving fuck out of this movie. I always have. You can never convince me this is not a good movie. The soundtrack, the sword fights, I love it all. I will rewatch this again and again.
That's crazy to me, Andrew.
Yeah,
like, you were like so angry about watching Masters of the Universe, and you're like, "This movie is such a piece of shit."
Masters of the Universe is not good. I'm sorry.
Is better than Highlander.
What? No.
I'll fight you with a katana in a parking lot right now.
I'm closer. Let me take him out, Greg. He's mine.
I would give it barely a 2.5 out of 5. And I think people should watch it to get a really good appreciation of a better action movie. I think the writing is lame. I think that they had some actors that they could have done some really good stuff with. Clancy Brown and Sean Connery. I think they were underused, and I think Lambert. I've seen him in other films where he's done well in his character, but I think in this one it was just like, are you freaking kidding?
Well, you know, they made a movie for $200. You got to give him some slack.
And Sean Connery was on it for 1 week, and he bet the director that they wouldn't be able to wrap all his scenes in 7 days. They wrapped them in 6, and the bet he'd made was for $1 million off his paycheck. So he lost $1 million off his paycheck because the director did all his scenes in 6 days.
And that shows.
Kind of does.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside Movies. I've been George Michail. It's been Andrew Buckley, John Bauer, and GMB CHOMICHUK. You can follow along with us on our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitters, our podcast, all those different things. There's links to those all in the description of this video. And The Backbone of Night, cool new series by GMB CHOMICHUK. There's a link to that in the description as well. Make sure you check out that book, and we'll see you next time. Peace.